Metro and focused development in the transit corridors has resulted in attracting businesses and investment to Arlington and to helping to hold traffic in check. Today, in addition, the next generation workforce wants transit options rather than a reliance on cars. How do you view Arlington's growth model, and what changes, if any, do you see as being necessary for the future? And we're going to start with Christian, and then go to Katie, and then come back to Mike and Denline.
I don't think I'm going to be able to be concise on this one, so sorry about that. So Metro has obviously been a great success in the development of our RB corridor for reasons that relate to the wonderful thought that went into placement and the wonderful compactness of it. And clearly the future success of that relies on Metro, and hopefully there will be another question on Metro later where we can go into greater detail, but that underpins the future growth there. And as we think about applicability to other parts of Arlington, we see Metro existing, Crystal City, Pentagon City, but we see a different physical layout, which has made development and densities work a little bit differently there. We can't simply just export that model everywhere else. This is where the evolution of smart growth into probably versions 5.0 are necessary. Overall, I will just say the challenge for us in Arlington is to recognize that we need transit that just doesn't move people from their living quarters to their office. We also need transit that effectively connects people to where they might also to where they might also play in a community. And as we think about South Arlington here on Columbia Pike, and we think about much of suburban North Arlington, north of Lee Highway, that's an area where we have a lot of room to grow, to actually make car-free living or reduced car living a true viable option. For folks on the corridor, it's a great one. But if you think about the rest of Arlington, it's difficult, very difficult for people to actually achieve. And I think that inter-county connectivity, taking advantage or recognizing that people actually should be living car-free lives if possible, beyond just going to and from work, is our next challenge and the next area where we need to focus creative thinking.
Absolutely. So the car-free option and the ability to do that is a big part of what brought my husband and I to Arlington in the first place. Living in Crystal City and then in Clarendon, and being able to be part of that very deliberate, intentional strategy was really attractive to us. We bought our home a few years ago off Columbia Pike, where we live now. And so I do very much agree with Christian, actually, that the next plan is how do you bring choice to corridors like Columbia Pike, and like increasingly Lee Highway, which, as those of you who live off Lee Highway know, is engaged in a community visioning process about what will be next for thoughtful planning and development in that area. And so one of the principles that I think we would be well served to bear in mind as we think about the future of those corridors that aren't Metro, but will still be supported by significant transportation investments, is thinking about the needs of citizens, not just as commuters, but also as consumers. This is a big challenge for the Pike, and a lot of times when we talk about what's next for the Pike in terms of transit, we talk about it through the lens of how congested this corridor can be during rush hour. We think about it through the lens of commuting. And one of the really important pieces of development along this corridor will in fact be the ability of people to move around and participate as shoppers, as diners, as neighbors. And so the next generation, I think, along the Pike in particular, and we can export some of those lessons to Lee Highway, is how do you create the options for people to walk and to bike, sidewalks and streets that feel more pedestrian and bicyclist friendly, because it isn't just about getting back and forth to work, it's also about participating in local businesses.
Well, because I live close to Clarendon and the R&B corridor, I can tell you that it's not all gravy over there. You know, it's very congested. I live 15 minutes from Clarendon. Instead of driving to Clarendon to go to the bank or to run an errand, I'll walk, because it's easier for me to walk than find a parking space. It takes me 15, 20 minutes to find a parking space out there. And so we need to do a better job in this county. Well, we can't get the other people out of their cars because it's so congested going through that corridor, and the corridor's underparked to boot. So, and it's not easily managed to be able to ride your bike through that corridor either, because there's no dedicated bike lanes. And we've taken places out along the street in Boston where you can't even ride your bike anymore because we put parking in. So it's not, you know, I'm all for like I said, going out and walking, but a lot of folks in this community don't do that. And we need to educate folks more, I think, in terms of doing that. We also need to take what we've learned in the corridor and place it on the Columbia Pike and do the right things over there, because, you know, it just isn't as easy as you folks think it is in terms of the amount of density in the neighborhoods. There's a lot of cut-through traffic going into the R&B corridor. You got to think about all those kinds of things. People have just not abandoned their cars in this community. So, you know, we need to really think thoughtfully about this and move forward with the fact that, you know, people do drive in this county.
Well, I can definitely attest to the merits of transit-oriented development. I probably wouldn't be employed right now except for Metro, because I'm a government contractor, and contracting suffered severe impacts with sequester 2 years ago. Many contract positions today are temporary, and all the positions that I've had in the past 2 years are temporary, which means I'm looking for work every 6 to 9 months. And were it not for Metro, I probably could not secure employment as continuously as I have. Also, I know that my experience is that of many other Arlingtonians, because despite sequester, the statistics indicate that, believe it or not, Arlington still has the highest median household income in the nation. You've got to think about that when you also consider the impact of sequester. So yes, I like transit-oriented development, but there is a corollary to it that troubles me deeply, and that's densification. The notion that densification will lead to reductions in housing costs. That premise is wrong. We've lost over 13,000 units in the last 15 years. We're slated to lose the last 5,000 of our market rate affordable housing units within the next 5 years. And we've only replaced, of those 13,000, 3,000 of them with committed affordable units. So we really do need to rethink the paradigm that densification means reduction in housing costs. What it generally implies is increased land values, and those increased land values translate to higher rents and higher housing assessments. Our millennials can no longer afford the rents. Our seniors can no longer afford the remarkable increases in our housing assessments. So we need to rethink this paradigm. Thank you.
Okay.